and many of our churches are dying. Many of our churches are stuck with a liturgical rut. They're stuck in a liturgical rut, and they're struggling to get out of that. They don't know how to get out of that.
And I think it's a fallacy to assume that we're not niche-based. I think the sooner we understand that in a multitude of cultures and a multitude of tastes and preferences, that we can only reach a certain element and a certain segment of the population. And who that is for 99.9% of us, whether we admit it or not, is the Christian culture. The very fact that we believe that non-Christians will worship, and that they will want to hear from the Bible, that they will want us to talk to them about the things that matter to us, only tells me that we do not understand the people that we're called to talk to. We haven't earned the right to be heard.
So this is my business card. If you note, it says pastor on it. At the beginning, didn't know what to call myself or how to address myself in the community, and Kyle suggested actually that I just say that I'm a pastor, and I've got the MDiv and all that kind of stuff, but it actually starts off great conversation in the community because, first of all, I'm a female and young, single, so it takes people back and it starts off, great conversation. But in that, though, just to kind of realize that, the denomination we're affiliated with, and just to kind of help ease people into what I do, I actually had to get a second card made just to make sure I wouldn't kind of mess with people, So this is the censored version of it. So you notice there's no pastor on it. So that's why I give to denominational people, not as a joke or anything, but just to kind of know my context.
A big part of what I have to do is try to fundraise with people on the outside, which pulls me away from trying to nurture 20-year-olds that are having existential angst about God. Is there a God? And what does God have to do with me? And oh my goodness, I'm pregnant and I'm not sure I'm going to pass this term, and my parents don't know I'm pregnant, and I actually want to kill myself. That's where I need to be. Not trying to go out there saying, hey, we really could use X amount of dollars every month to help this thing really turn into what it needs to turn into.
It's very experimental, like trying out ideas. Because honestly, I don't know how to do this. And I'm not just trying to create a church called Kipiu. I'm actually thinking on a bigger plan. I'm trying to figure out how church can work in an urban context like Montreal, and I think it could have something to do with other Canadian cities.
And for physical space, being in downtown Vancouver, the cost of real estate, the fact that there are no I could pay $500 for half an hour for a meeting room in a hotel, but that would bankrupt us really quick, or make us poor really quick as a church, and it just doesn't seem like a good use of our finances when they could be going other places. And so physical space for us has become partly really core to what we believe in. And our vision is to have a living room church in every condo in downtown Vancouver.
One of the unique things about Embassy and the culture here at Embassy is how we journey with the students just for the season that they're in school. And so that means that there's a lot of turnover, and there's exciting things about that, and there's really difficult things about that. One of the exciting things is that we actually get the students at their prime when they're learning, and they're growing in academics and in their studies, and as well as a time when they're really starting to ask questions about their faith. They've left home, they're not with mom and dad anymore, and for the first time, their faith has to become their own. And so that we believe one of the cool things that God has called us to do is to just build better leaders for other churches. That's what Embassy is about.
My name's David Soller, and I'm the lead pastor at Lighthouse Church here in Glace Bay in Cape Breton. Glace Bay at one time was Canada's biggest town. There's about 50,000 people here, right in town limits, and most of the coal mines, all of them closed in the last one about 7-8 years ago, and the economy pretty much collapsed, and most of the people left. And that's the same in most of the towns around here. And it's led to a little bit of a depression. We're on the upswing now, but a lot of the people left, and a lot of the younger people left at that point. So kind of we're missing an age group here. But now the economy, while improving, it's been really low. Like the average family income for a while was in the 20-some thousand for a family, and we have all kinds of neighborhoods that would be considered slums somewhere else. But it's affected a lot of things. It's affected the churches, because when we lost a huge segment of the population, it was almost like the working age, they all left. And we're in a time now where in the town I live in, there's not one church who has a kids ministry, not one church who has a youth ministry, there's not one church who has a young adult ministry, because like the parents that would have had kids all left. And now we do have lots of kids because people stopped leaving, but none of them are connected with any church now. All the churches here were built about 100 years ago. We have a lot of large churches, but all the churches got their coal for free, and so nothing's insulated. And so when the price of oil went up, with the smaller congregations, they couldn't afford to keep the churches open. So we've just had like 20-some churches close in the last 2.5 years, and probably that many are going to close again. And there's only about 110 churches in all of Cape Breton. So potentially within a 5 to 7 year period, half the churches in Cape Breton are going to close. It's absolutely incredible. Well, we started here 2.5 years ago, really, and came here with just myself and my family, not knowing if we're going to have anybody. And zero is awful lonely, but it was kind of weird. As soon as we moved into the town, people they heard we were planting a church, and there's just people looking for something. And we just got a phone call one day from United Church Canada and said, we're closing some churches. Do you want to come look at some? And came down and looked at this building that we're in right now, and pretty much told us that day if we could have it for $1. And so we're sitting in it now, and it needs one pile of work, but that was how we got our first building. This fall it'll be open after working on it for an awful long time. And I think that's going to happen in most of the towns that we're working in. If we want buildings, just because so many churches have closed, that we can have buildings. It's a matter of what we can handle to fix up, because just when it changes hands, there's a lot of work involved. If there's ever a place that feels like the ends of the earth, it's here. I feel I'm a church planter, and some of the other towns that are here, I'm going to go plant some of the churches. Like once this is totally sustainable, I'll still be connected with this church, but I'm going to go plant some of the other churches. I'm not staying just in this building I'm in right now. Like right now we're working on 3 plants, and they're all close enough that I've been able to live here. If in the future we decide it's going to be a bit farther away, we may move. But right now it works because all the towns are close. But I see myself as planting more churches after this. No, other than come to Cape Breton and help. I mean, that's the main thing.
In a social and ecumenical climate where error and failure are deemed as unacceptable, these new churches realize that success and failure are inevitably intertwined. Safety and security are named as fallacies, and risk is embraced as the most basic building block of faith. So, as the present unfolds into the future, what will become of the church in Canada?
There's a lot of things that we can't really accomplish just on our own, but I hope that in the future that we'll be working together to a greater degree.
Church in Canada, I think it's the same thing. I think as the evangelical church, we really need to learn how to create space for pioneers. We really need to learn how to create space for folks who don't really fit the norm of what the church is or has been. And we really need to find a way to respond to the culture that is present right now.
And I think out of that, there's going to be vibrant communities born or reborn. But we're in an era in the life of the Christian church in the West, the Western world, that may be as tumultuous as the Reformation. And we may be, as a church, as unrecognizable in 50 years as the medieval church was 50 years after Luther nailed the theses to the Wittenberg door.
A huge challenge for the church in the 21st century, I believe, is to radically reform ourselves. I use both of those terms advisedly. Radically being returned to a root, and reform evoking memories of the huge shift that happened in the 1500s Church Reformation. We need something of that magnitude, such that the church no longer views itself as wealthy people who can, if they choose, reach out to the poor, but that the church reforms itself around people who are poor, so that the poor are us.
One of the things I think the church has to wrestle with is to really wrestle with her own identity. And for a lot of people are wondering, what is the church, and does the church really matter? And I think the future for Canada will require Christians, leaders like ourselves, to articulate clearly that the church does matter. The church is not just some community that meets needs and helps people do good in life. It's not just about being positive and being friends with other people. It's the only community in the world that has Jesus at its center.
Yeah, I think that we're not risk-taking enough, and I speak across the board. What we want to do is bank on things that give us results that we can measure. I would like to see more risk-taking. I'd love to see more denominational effort put into saying, let's try something.
Sometimes, the endeavor is scary, and I think we need people who are willing to go to the scary places, not believing that they've got it all together, but believing that with God nothing is impossible. It doesn't mean everything's easy, it just means it's not impossible.
A pastor who's been here for many years looked at me and said, do you realize there's no urban core in Halifax? And then a few sentences later he said, I can't believe that you would bring your family down to such a high needs, high risk. You put your family at risk in these neighborhoods. And so I looked at them and said, well, which one is it? Is it no urban core, or is it urban core and risk? So one of the biggest things that we've had to struggle with is the risk of coming here greater than the risk of not coming here?
I'm with my man Joe Manifold. We're going to open up the hood on this Jesus thing like a manifold. Oh, his blessings are manifold. Lord God, sometimes I feel cold. I'm getting old, but let me speak boldly so I can reach to and preach to those who are each lost, because God, your cross is all I've got. And I sometimes feel like I've crossed this abyss, but Lord God, I get the gist, and what you need is to be inside, so my pride will hide and I'll start to abide. May this new culture start to see that we can't insult you, because what we need is to catapult you, because you're already in the heavenlies, and we, the brethren, be excited, ignited. Lord God, we see your light, and we're going to get more and more on the right path. I don't care if they laugh, because sometimes we might just look like hacks, but still we follow the book of Acts, and we know the facts, which are that God creates. And even if you debate, we'll always demonstrate that we beat hate with love, the dove. And Lord God, I gotta say that you shove all the evil to the side. People, we reside in the Creator. So Lord God, be the inflator of our hearts. I know I just started, but now I feel like I must be